Welcome to Failure Upcycled. This is Dr. Vicki Stieha.
And this is Dr. Kimberly Henderson from Boise State University. In this podcast, we learn about how Mario's hard work pays off and the impact of being part of a team.
In response to Mario's story, we talk about shame, goal setting, emotional regulation, and growth mindset.
Hello, Dr. Henderson. My name is Mario. I'm in your psychology hybrid course. I am a kinesiology major. My story of me failing is my junior year of high school. I was a part of a team, a basketball team to be exact. And I went to practice every single day. On the weekends even I'd practice on my own time, worked out all the time, did all I thought I needed to do. And then I got to the season and we ended up winning one league game out of all the hard work I put in. So even though it was a team failure, I consider myself a part of that team. So I contributed to that, so I was failing. So the next year, I had to work that much harder to better myself and my team, and we ended up getting third place and winning a whole bunch of games in our leagues and made playoffs for the first time in a really long time. So that was the story of my failure. Thank you. Bye.
It is hard to fail. I think it's hard to fail and just put that out there and say, boy, I just really messed up.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just, I failed, but it's that conditional failure.
Yeah. So I think that it's hard to fail, and I think it's hard to talk about failure to other people.
Yes.
And what are the socially acceptable ways to talk about failure? Maybe one of the most socially acceptable ways to talk about failure is to talk about, but then I went back and I worked harder. Mm-hmm. But then, right, that it's almost like a trope or, the mythology of success is that, if at first you don't succeed, try again.
Yeah.
But, it seems to me that going back to Mario, he's created a narrative about that season and about his participation in the team.
Yeah.
And his acceptance of the fact that I worked hard, maybe they didn't work hard, but their failure was my failure. No, the team failed, but you did not fail.
Perceived lack of success, right? But if his bar was for his team to get there, right? Like I see the individual versus the collective, right?
Right.
Like, or removing it a little bit from Mario and just thinking about student projects. Oftentimes one of the ways that we balance that out is that students get a team grade, but then they also get an individual grade, or that sometimes students get to peer grade each other, right? So then there's that opportunity to account for those people that are not stepping up.
Yeah.
Right? There are ways for us to do that academically, but when you lose a team, right? A game.
True.
It's done. It's done. So if the bar wasn't met, then it's not met. I wonder how aggressive he was with his team the following year.
Yeah.
Right? When you think about people taking on leadership roles in order to facilitate change, I mean, we see that right now in our culture. We see lots of these sort of like-minded groups stepping up and having calls to action. Scientist March, the Women's March, we've got these voices that are just like, not enough, I'm going to step up. I don't like where my team is going, and I want to be the leader.
Or I want to definitely be part of I don't want to sit by the sidelines.
Yes. No, I'm going to play.
I'm going to
I'm
play.
gonna play.
I think there are a lot of people who are willing to step out there and be a supportive teammate, to step in and take a hit.
Yeah.
I would love to follow up with Mario and say, talk to me about in your head, go back to that time and say, what was that narrative like in your head when you realized that your hard work alone was not going to carry the day? And that's life.
Yeah.
Sometimes things just don't shake out. And I think what's really powerful is the story that we tell about those experiences and the weight that it has in our thinking about ourselves. I will say that as I listen to Mario's story, I don't know him. He may not reveal any of this to us ever, but he seems to have moved on.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, because he got what he wanted.
Ultimately.
What if he would have never gotten what he wanted? Would you have ever moved on?
They won a lot more games. I mean, they didn't get the championship. The
Second season he did, though. The second season they went all the way. Isn't that what he said?
They finally got into the championship.
Oh, okay.
They didn't win.
Got it.
So he's not saying, and the next time we came back and we took home the big trophy, right? He's like, we did better. So to me, it sounds like we have potentially a pretty good self-narrative there.
Yeah.
That allows him to say, yeah, didn't go as I wanted. I understand when I play as part of a team, the team's failure is mine. I worked as hard as I could. But his self-talk seems, from the evidence that we have here,
Yeah.
doesn't seem to have held him back in this situation.
No. So I have a question for you.
Yes.
How or where do you see this fitting with that growth mindset? So Brene Brown talks about the shame story, right? You go around and you share the things that you just really, and that shame is that I believe that people see me as being less than because of the following things.
Right.
That you share those things and it kind of takes some of the toxicity out of them.
Right.
And then you get to the point where you do what we were just talking about, where you're able to reframe it. If you were to marry this skill of reframing and growth minds, how do you see those two things coming together, or do you?
Growth mindset and reframing?
Yeah.
So I think you need to have what Dweck would call a growth mindset in order to reframe. Right? You need to be able to understand that there is nothing innately wrong or right that's necessarily explaining all of it. Right?
Yeah.
That it's not our innate talent or our innate lack of talent or our innate intelligence or lack thereof that's important, but that it is an accurate, maybe optimistic, forward-looking retelling of what's going on that then empowers you as you move forward, right? So, and maybe that's part of what Mario was doing.
Yeah.
Maybe Mario is reframing a team failure, a team lack of success, to say, in the end, if we all commit ourselves, in the end, if we all work a little harder, take our weekends, do the extra drills, we'll accomplish more.
Yeah.
And yeah, maybe he can carry that into other areas of his life as well.
That process. So when I think about Mario, and I think about his perseverance, right? His ability to sort of reframe the experience and say, we lost. And I'm sure that was devastating at the time, right? Especially because it seems to be pretty central to all of his I mean, he expended a lot of resources
Right.
to achieve that success, and to
Right.
not have that come to fruition is very difficult. So he had that persistence because he came back, right? Like,
Yeah,
could have
yeah.
had the attitude, I've got a losing team.
Forget
Right,
it.
yeah,
Not
like,
worth,
I need to
not
go to
worth
a-
my energy.
Exactly. I need to go to a different place. So maybe it's the case that, he got to go back with that team, and it sounds like he must have been a junior, right? Because if he had a second year to do it, then
Yeah,
he was
he
a
told us he
senior
was a
his second year.
junior.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then he had his, the second year to be able to do that. And inherent in that sort of, age progression and grade, you do become the leader as the senior. Even though you still have juniors on your team, that level of enthusiasm and motivation and dedication, the example that you get to be by leading with your own persistence is pretty powerful too.
Right.
I see that in group work. I see that in working with colleagues. You know what I mean? I've worked with lots of colleagues, to do various singular tasks to work towards, evolutions in maybe curriculum or whatever, and not taking their presence or lack of presence or engagement or resources personal is a big thing.
Yeah.
Not have, even though I might be impassioned by it, I need to know that it's not a reflection of my worth in that moment. It's a reflection of their investment, right? So not taking that crap personal is, pretty key to regulating, I think, in this environment.
Yeah, and that's a great example for students to be able to apply to their own
Group work.
situation.
Yeah. Whatever it is.
Yeah,
I mean,
I
it's
think
not,
that one is valuable.
the whole don't take things personal, especially in group work.
Yeah.
And managing that space, but all of life is group work, right? If there is a career, or if there's a way to be a part of our culture and society today and not be dependent upon other people, I would be fascinated to hear about it. So don't take it personally, but guess what? Group work, that's life. Unless you're going to subsist out in the woods and live on your own land, and nobody else has control over any of your water or anything, you know what I mean? Like, imagine the scenario that we'd have to devise to where you weren't interrelated.
It takes quite an effort to
Yeah.
disconnect from other people. We
Okay.
are connected.
So figuring out what's my side of the street and what's your side of the street, and
What's
how we
my
persevere.
failure? What's our failure? What's my success? What's our success? And I wish maybe another time we'll talk about sharing success.
Yeah. That's so funny that you say that, because psychology is all about the disorder, right?
Right.
And then we just had this surge of the new philosophy of positive psychology, and I call it new because that's relative to the timeline of psychology as a science. And how they're like, hey, what if we look at what works?
Crazy that.
But we do look at what works when we talk about sort of our prescriptive
Yes,
pieces.
we do.
So.
We do. All right.
All right.